I'll call it a win, of the Ethiopian PM. He was awarded with the Nobel Peace Prize. Quite the achievement. And I'll ask Professor Noami Dama now to weigh in. I'd asked, was it or is it deserved?
Before I answer that question, Olive, I was with, when I went to college, I had an Ethiopian and Eritrean roommate.
Ah, interesting.
And we lived so harmoniously, and the Eritrean Ethiopians were the best friends. And in 1998, those two people became the enemy immediately after all the conflict began between Ethiopia and Eritrea. They did not. They're both still alive, and I'm still in touch with them. They only came together when Abiy Ahmed, at the age of 45, ended that conflict. 20 years, but it took him only 3 months to focus on that pinpoint and make sure that it came together. So the issue is not when and how he received his Nobel Peace Prize. The issue is to watch the man, and he's consistently, in terms of leadership that he has taken, even for his Oromia tribesmen. They've been in the cold for years. They are the majority in Ethiopia. And these folks have become militant, for very obvious reason. If you watch the picture of the torture chamber in this prison and all the things that have gone on, it's awful. But this fellow is taking up the upper hand that Mahatma Gandhi taught all of us, Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, and all the rest. You can have a constructive dialogue and peace that will last for a long time without fighting. And that is that's the role he has taken, and he's become one of the unique African leaders today. And so when you watch, there was a debate of whether Ethiopia is now more in terms of their capacity than Kenya and all that. That is beside the point. What you need to look at is what's going on in Ethiopia vis-a-vis the rest of the world. There is a massive investment going on, foreign investment. They pass through Kenya and on to Ethiopia. They pass through Kenya and on to Rwanda. Why? Because they are continuously improving way to invest and do business. Now, our government, which we're very proud of, will not continue providing jobs. It's the private sector that is going to provide jobs, and we know that worldwide. And therefore, the point is they're doing something that rapidly changing the country, the economic setup and everything, and we are good at it, and we need to be out there. And so America say, don't sit on your laurel if you're a leader. Continuously improving and making it better. And therefore, if you look at the world configuration right now, America is the superpower without any question. But America is seriously being challenged by China and Russia in terms of their moral leadership. And when you have a vacuum in a moral leadership, you cannot stand before the rest of the people and create peace. Okay. And that is the issue that we have in Kenya, which we need to watch very closely.
Okay, before I come to you, Dr. Kanenje, you haven't spoken on this. Why was it important what he did as far as Ethiopia and Eritrea are concerned, as far as the relations between Ethiopia and Eritrea are concerned?
Yeah, first of all, I would like to congratulate Dr. Abiy Ahmed for the Nobel Peace Prize. I think he deserved it. Now, there have been lots of questions because he was actually number 2 behind Greta Thunberg, yes, the lady environmental activist, and who admonished world leaders for sitting idly by as the world burns. This award is what I would call Obamanization of the Nobel Peace Prize. Mm. It's not exactly because a lot of times we'll ask questions, but he's only been in power for a year, or he only gave a speech. Yes, we can. When you look at the message, in a world that is in turmoil right now, for him to actually engage Eritrea. And what people are looking is it's not just Eritrea. He's actually been involved in South Sudan. Unfortunately, he ate our lunch because we are the ones who are supposed to be there. He's been involved in other countries in the Horn of Africa in trying to bring about peace. And for him to strike a deal between Addis and Asmara that have been pretty much in a state of war for all these years. And in 1998 to 2000, I think it cost more than 100,000 lives. It was one of the bloodiest wars on the continent at the time. Horrible, in a desert. And to create the kind of calm and to take the risk he's taking, releasing political prisoners in Ethiopia, bringing back OLF members, even though there are lots of course, dissatisfaction, with regard to what is going on.
They've been previously exiled?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I actually was taught, one of my professors was from Ethiopia, but he was, I think, exiled in 1973 and declared persona non grata, and he had never been to Ethiopia since 73, so you can imagine. For him to try and make peace at the expense of his own survival, because recently you saw there was an attempted coup, within the country. That is a very powerful thing to do. That's a Mandela-like moment. And that is why this is so important, because even right now he's facing a lot of challenges from the status quo, because the status quo never wants to go away. And it's going to be a struggle, frankly speaking, to be able to bring about those changes, try to move towards democratization in a country that was used to authoritarianism. It's not easy. It's going to be a tough job.
For 1,000 years.
Exactly. And it's going to need our support, because there are a lot of things there that are still going on, including people from the Oromo community or even OLF itself, who are dissatisfied, who are actually claiming that the Prime Minister has been captured by the status quo, and therefore he cannot make some of the kind of moves he should make to make the country more open and more peaceful. However, that success alone in itself and the risk he's been taking to try and bring reforms in Ethiopia, I think is what made him special and why he was so deserving to win the Nobel Peace Prize. And by the way, it's been a while since actually someone from this region won, because I was crying the other day because I've been waiting for our brother Ngugi wa Thiong'o to get a Nobel Prize in Literature forever, and nothing is coming. I don't think there's anyone more deserving. I'm hoping that next year some miracle happens and then he gets it.
Hashi?
So Samuel, the great Samuel Johnson once said that patriotism is the last refuge of a scoundrel. So when the question of patriotism, Olive, the most patriotic person is a person who calls out his country for the things that are wrong. Of course, we have come up from the culture of Jomo Kenyatta, of Harambes and clapping, and then we went to the Moi era of clapping, and men and women of the second liberation, and of course the third liberation was there too, joined and changed this country so that we could come here and freely express the politics of this country. A few decades ago, if we tried to do that, there'd be special branch people down here would be arrested. As you know, I was involved in that struggle. I'm not trying to hoot my horn, and I'm very passionate about this country. And it's really important for us to call out the things that are wrong. And we're doing that because we love our country. We're not doing that because we hate our country, because we want it to be better. We want it to be better. That's why we say these things. So that's on a note about how the philosophy of the thing works. The last point, Olive, I agree with my colleague here on the right, who is probably the leading expert on foreign policy today in Kenya, that we have to, Kenya and Ethiopia have to be one. We cannot have even a question mark on our relationship with Ethiopia. Because these two countries are the leaders of this region of about 20 countries on the eastern seaboard of Africa. And if we integrate, and I agree with my esteemed colleague on my left here, Dr. Mumo, that once we integrate, once we bring these economies together, you know that the Ethiopians have got this electricity thing on the Nile. We need cheap electricity for industry in Kenya. We don't have to build a Hoover Dam in Kenya. We can get it from the Ethiopians, and we can give the Ethiopians something back that they don't have. If we got these connections between the region, our economy will grow at 10 to 11 to 9%. And these kids who are complaining about old people being given jobs in government will get decent jobs in this country. That is the agenda of this region. That is the agenda of leadership. We cannot be blithe and about what's going on. We have to speak about it. We have to be outspoken.
All right, Professor?
What happened to Ahmed, again at the age of 45, should be a pride for every African person and every African leader. And this is the kind of thing we're looking forward, so that our imagery around the world and what we do can be now begin to change.
Okay. Dr. Mustafa, what do you make of how he's negotiating those ethnic tensions in Ethiopia? I mean, there's been a sense, at least previously, there was a sense that if they relinquish even a little bit of control or that tight grip on the populace, then things will just explode. What do you make of how Abiy Ahmed has navigated those waters?
Yeah, Abiy Ahmed, first of all, he's only 43 years old. He was born in 1976. So we're making him older by 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Abiy Ahmed, you know, diplomacy is about people.
Yes.
And Abiy Ahmed is a prime minister or a leader of the people, for the people. He reaches out to the most, even to the most dictatorial. He's always holding hands. If you saw him with, not Riek Machar, Salva Kiir, he was holding him in the hand like that and walking onto the plane, and he was whispering something to him. Yeah. Those are the moments that you actually catch somebody's attention, not exactly in the boardroom. Abiy's way of doing things is a very charming person, and he uses the right words. He puts himself down low. It's not about him. Yeah. It's about the problem. Yeah. And it's about the people that are having the problem. Yeah. If you look how, for example, Pope Francis, when he welcomed Riek Machar and Salva Kiir at the Vatican, Pope went down on his knees. And that was, I think, the most embarrassing moment for Salva Kiir and Riek Machar. Abiy is that kind of a person. It's not about him. It's not about egos and male, you know, all this testosterone and nothing about, you know, it's about the problem. And Abiy has done that. He is the quintessential diplomat, a prime minister, and a leader in the region.
All right. Yes, Professor?
I just want one imagery that Mustafa is talking about, and I don't want our audience to forget it. It is the time that the soldiers came to the palace, and if it was Idi Amin time, they probably would be all mowed down. Yeah. But Abiy Ahmed got them bench press, everyone. And when it was, yes, bench press. When it was all done, they were all clapping. Tell me any African or any leader in this world who has done.
All right.
And by the way, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, is similarly charismatic person.
Yes,
he's really a people's person.
Yes.
If you have met Uhuru Kenyatta, and I've met him on several occasions, he is very, he's also charismatic. He's a people's person. I don't think Uhuru's, the president has gotten into Uhuru's head. He really wants the best for this country. Yeah. And what Uhuru needs is actually the best people around him to be able
to do the job,
to deliver.
Yes.
Dr. Nza, do you agree?
Correct. Yeah, you know, I mean, the head of state does everything in his wisdom, including sanctioning appointments and so on. I think our country is going to have room for everyone. We need to go the way Hashi said. Let's create more opportunities. Coming to think about in terms of the potential maybe of the Nile and so on, the mouth of the Congo River, there are rapids there. True. If it is tapped, it can supply the entire Africa. Yeah. And Kenya is going to lead in trying to make sure that happens. Good point. Okay. And President Uhuru is going to be there.
Okay. Yeah. I get this sense, though, that President Uhuru Kenyatta was closer to Haile Mariam Desalegn than he is to Abiy Ahmed. Do you get the same sense?
Well, I mean, Ethiopia has always been friendly to Kenya, no doubt about it. And we've had a lot of challenges. Remember, there was the challenge of Ogaden, there was the challenge of the North Frontier district we had here, and all these other, irredentism problems. Ethiopia and Kenya have cooperated so well in that context. And therefore, and we are neighbors. You can't wish away your neighbor. So for me, there are many positives, and it's for the region. There are a lot of things that Abiy is doing that are not just for Ethiopia, but for Africa.
But do they share an ideology or outlook at least?
Yes.
Because you said they're similarly charismatic.
I think this is a very important point. And I think Dr. Mustafa has hit it dead on. I agree with him. Mr. Kenyatta is very charismatic. There's no question about that. But Mr. Kenyatta is a conservative. He's not a progressive, in my opinion. I could be wrong. And this is important for us to say this, it's the matter of speaking your mind. It's part of the democratic ethos of this country. And if you don't know how to do it, you shouldn't be a public intellectual. He's not a progressive. He's become a progressive in the second term. In the first term, everything that he did was much more conservative, Kanu-type politics. And that's just a fact. It's in the public record. But Hail Mary, as they say in the Catholic Church, today, Mr. Kenyatta has become very progressive because you could see the pillars in the thing. He is all over the country. He's just in Kisumu. He went there secretly. He is a man with a mission because he wants to leave a legacy, right? And that is a very critical thing because this country has come to the precipice of a national disaster. I was interviewed by Farah Maalin the other day, and one of the things I said is in 1945, Winston Churchill was appointed prime minister, and the Labour opposition crossed the floor and joined the national government. Clement Attlee was the deputy prime minister. And there was a government of national unity to fight the war in 1945. This is what's happening in Kenya. There is a government of national unity that is emerging out of parliament. It's emerging out of our leaders so that we can tackle the urgent and fundamental problems of this country. If we just have this sense of divisionism and opposition and that is deep and abiding, we're not going to be able to do what we need to do. And that's why this relationship between Mr. Kenyatta and Mr. Odinga is extremely critical for this country.
All right. Professor?
If you compare these two people, Ahmed and President Kenyatta, they have a lot much more in common. They're people's people, and two, they care about the whole encompassing national interest, and you can see that's where his interest is right now. So the point is, this personal imagery we have talked about for a long time is what get the people, is what change. If you look at from Abraham Lincoln to Nelson Mandela to all other leaders, Mahatma Gandhi's, put them all together, and Barack Obama. That's what brings the people together, and I'm really excited about the president's leadership. I'm excited about the amount and the consistency that is establishing. And what we were talking about, he needed the right people to be surrounding him to deliver, because we're talking about public service. And there was a talk about how much people these MCAs, how much they're taking home. Now, what you need to talk about is what is the value, what are they giving to the country, and there are statistics which compare what we call public service sector productivity. If you compare those statistics, Africa average about 5%. Singapore is at 99%. So what is happening? Where are these people, and why are we paying them?
All right.
Those are the questions that we must ask. And so if Abiy Ahmed is surrounded by the right people, President Kenyatta is surrounded by the right people, we're going to change. we're going to change the whole region.
We're going to be unstoppable,
Yes.
as Eliud Kipchoge was.
Yes.
Dr. Kanenje, do you want to have the last word on this topic before we move on and talk about the welfare of the Kenya Defense
One of
Forces?
the people who should be close to President Kenyatta is Hassan Khanenje here.
Yeah.
A young man who could do a lot of good at State House. So please, government.
Forget about
I mean, it's lovely.
Well, thanks for the good words. I hope the president is listening. I think the circumstances are different. When Abiy Ahmed came into power, I was interviewed by international TV 3 months before that, and they asked, what do you think is going to happen? And they say there's a man from an Oromo region who is likely to succeed to actually become the next prime minister of Ethiopia. At the time, it was going through a crisis just because of the way things are. And so odds were, or the angels were aligned actually in favor of him succeeding. Our president came into power in the most improbable fashion. And I think the first term, it was about survival. He was at the ICC, he's here, he's there. And I don't think there was enough focus by the entire government, actually the entire Kenyan community or society, in trying to focus on the success of the presidency. Because we didn't even know how things were going to look like. Both the president and, of course, the vice president. Well, you guys nowadays call them the deputy president. I like the vice president more. It doesn't make a difference. But in the second term, with all this cloud and the devils and demons of the past gone, and the ICC cloud removed, we, of course, are seeing a different president, because now he can actually focus on legacy as opposed to survival and fighting his enemies, at the time. Of course, a lot of enemies were unable, of course, to get rid of him at the time, at least in the perception of people who were operating within the system. And so, focusing on the legacy has been more helpful, even though it also brings certain other challenges, and you can see. Reaching out, he's been having his own Mandela moments, And of course, as Dr. Mustafa said, the president is very charismatic. I don't think he's ever allowed his presidency to get into him. In what the words of Wamalwa, power to get into his head and subvert his noble goals. I think he's still determined to make this country a better place and to leave a legacy in 3 years. And I think what he needs more than anything else is the support of Kenyans in his final term. And there are going to be challenges. I'm sure he's going to lose a lot of friends. I think he's already lost a lot of friends. Good. But if we are not united in supporting the president to succeed, it's going to be a challenge for him to achieve. And if he fails, we all fail.